So welcome to Challenge the Road. We're going to go through tax bands. I had a lot of messages, calls about, Richard, how much is this collection now going to cost you with all these massive increases in prices? No one's happy, are they? No one's happy about anything in the budget, it seems. We'll start here because this is a World Rally car. These, it says a tax list actually in the window there, but these had to be taxed because they went between stages. When you go between stages, you have to have a tax. So if I wanted to, I could tax this car today and I can take this on the public road and pretend to be Colin McRae. I'm not going to, because this is an appreciating asset that I've got and I could never do it justice as Colin McRae did. So this has cost me zero, because I've never taxed it. Porsche GT3 RS. Now there's different bands in the country on taxes. So you've got everything sort of pre-2001, and you've got 2001 to 2017, which is where this car sits. So this is a 2018 car. It was about £600 before. That's now £735 because this emits more than 255 grams of CO2, and that's why I think this is going to be end of the line now. Porsche, if they can't make the 4 litre under sort of 200 grams of CO2, then we're end of the line. V12 Aston, it gets another rise, £735 for this car. Again, I'd probably maybe only do 6 months on this. You've got that choice, but we'll talk about that on other cars. Murcielago SV, haven't driven this for a year. It's had 2 services in that time, so it's cost me zero. But if I want to, it's going to cost me £735 for the privilege. McLaren P1, 2013 car. This is about, I think it was 194 CO2. And when I bought this, I realised it was actually 3 tax in America. And I thought that's a good selling point for someone if I ever sell it in the future, because you've got hybrid tech. 5 to 11 miles of electric, making it a low CO2. Not as low as the 918 Spider, I must add, but it's low. Now, that looks to be £385 tax. I don't think that's that far off, but again, I don't put this on the road, so it's costing me zero. Subaru Impreza WRC S5 manual, one of my favourite cars. Again, never taxed it, so it's cost me zero. Love that. Subaru Impreza 22B. Now this is where these tax bands change. If you've got a car that's under 2001, you're probably going to pay the lowest rates. So now for this car, £345 because it's a 1999 car. I would probably tax this for 6 months, which is going to cost me £210, so not too bad. Rally car, Escort, WRC and Group A, podium at Thousand Lakes, never taxed it, so zero again for this. Escort Cosworth, now we're back in that same band, 1992, these come out, £345. And this all makes sense when we start talking about new taxes as well, new cars. It's going to get interesting. Lancia Delta rally car, again, I do use this only for 6 months, £210. But my poor little Clio, I've just got the little Clio. You're staying anyway. Don't worry about the budget. Don't worry about the government. You're staying, you're staying. Still getting married, don't worry. Now, it's going to be £735 because it's between 2001 and 2017. That's a big jump. I've actually just taxed this car and I think it was about £209 for 6 months. So I'll put that on the screen anyway, what the actual rise is, but you're staying anyway. But again, they're really hitting those cars between 2001 and 2017, and even more on new when we go through that. But if you're looking for an investment, we'll do the Mitsubishi first actually. Here's the Mitsubishi. Again, £345 because this is a 2000, so quite a big, just missing that date by a year makes a big difference to your tax. Because this is almost half the price tax if it had been after, because there's no way that's under 250 grams. This is what you want now. Classic cars, over 40 years old, free tax, you can register the car, you don't pay any tax. Look at this, look, no income tax, no VAT, beautiful. Look at the inside of this, look at that. That is tremendous, isn't it? Look at that. So the trotters were right. We should have stuck to these freewheel vans all along because they're zero tax. That'll be more for part 2 when I talk about classic cars and the values of them. But yeah, that's the collection I've got here. Obviously there's a lot more vehicles around. I'm actually on an auction in an hour's time to get more classic cars. Right, that's the end of this session on here. Let's talk about new cars. Let's go through new cars because this is where there's some massive tax rises. I've got some statements here. So we're looking at on a new vehicle with over 255 CO2, the tax is doubling. So it's 2745. So it's doubling to over £5,490, which is a massive increase. Now, it's quite interesting because I've ordered as a next daily an M3 Touring, and the tax is going to be quite high now. So I've got to make sure that arrives before April 25, or I'm going to have an additional 2,745 to pay. The actual tax, just looking at it here, so if it's a new car as in over 2017, we've been back through on the last video bit on older cars, but the standard rate is £190. It seems if that's a hybrid, anything, £190. Anything that emits 1 CO2 is £190. But this is where they're really hitting us. And it makes you feel like you don't want to try and achieve in life. You've got to stay in the system, I suppose. But if you buy an electric vehicle over £40,000, which I think is quite, I say, easy to do at the moment because manufacturers have invested a lot in these electric vehicles, and you know they are quite expensive at the moment. You will pay an extra £410, so £600 for your hybrid. I mean, I don't know if there were many full electrics that can be 1 gram of CO2, but it's going to cost you, you know, quite a bit. So I was just trying to think of my BMW X5 I've got. It's hybrid. It's now going to be £600 in tax, which is a lot looking at it here. We've been hit pretty hard, haven't we? Now, also on some of this, I think it's not all totally agreed and what it's going to be. I don't know if they've left a little bit of room because this budget has been a nightmare. I'm looking on YouTube, watching videos. No one likes anything they've done. And obviously, the more you tax people, and sometimes that doesn't work. I'll put up a little statement here. But yeah, it's going to be expensive. I'm actually thinking whether I cancel the order on the M3 Touring now. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. We're massively being pushed to have an electric car, we know that, but I don't think the infrastructure's there. And the worry for me is we've got people in charge of our money who maybe not spending it in the best way. Well, I look at like smart motorways. If we're coming away from that now, we've invested in, you know, the state of the roads. I'd just like to see more investment in the roads and the infrastructure than maybe electric charge points. But they have to do the electric charge points because they're forcing us to have an electric car. But I still believe they're not quite there yet. I said it needs to be 10-minute charge, 500 miles. We're not there. Going forward, thinking about cars, you know, I've done videos before, haven't I, where I've said that, you know, you could get a cheap electric car. I think you're going to be forced to. I don't think there's going to be, at the moment, if this government stays in, you're going to be forced to have an electric car because your tax is going to be so high. It's an incredible rise. And when I read some of the road tax system will change again in 2020. Electric cars will be charged VED for the first time. Yeah, it's only going to be £10, not going to be a lot. New electric cars will be subject to a standard rate and the 40,000 premium car tax fee. So, you know, they're going to have to start paying more in 2025 on electric vehicles as well, it seems. It's not that clear on here. I keep reading it through and going backwards and forwards. I think there is some options of what they're actually thinking, but yeah, it's going to be quite a difficult time for everyone. And and to run cars, and for me thinking about cars here, how I'm going to run and manage them here, is actually thinking, well, maybe I just won't put them on the road as much. And the other thing is that we do need transport as people, and we're just getting into this position where I don't know if they want us on the roads going through my mind. Do they want to just keep us at home, not drive? Do we need to look at, you know, the older vehicles? Like I've got a Golf GTI almost 40 years old, and I'm thinking it's zero tax, I might just drive around in that, and I've got no. So will these, you know, prices on them potentially go up? So I've had a good look through. I still think maybe there's some room on this, but we're going to have to see, because they're obviously set on 2030 to say, look, that's it, no more petrol cars. But then Porsche just bring out a statement to say, we're going to, you know, put some petrol engines back in the electric cars. So it's like the manufacturers are probably going to go, not bust, but they're going to be really struggling with these changes, especially on new. And then we've got to think, what about we buy second hand? There's no real outcome to this video. It's just my take on it, that, you know, I like these classic cars that are before 2001, because it's probably the lowest tax band. And if you're thinking about a new car, you've got to think about what you're getting and try and make sure it's under £40,000 if you want to pay a lower tax going forward. But also, if you're thinking about your next car, you've got to think, was it £40,000 new? So there's quite a bit of thinking you need to do on your car, because if it is, then you're going to have this extra £410 tax, which is quite a lot, you know, of money over 3 or 4 years that you have the car. My mind is always going back to maybe we should be keeping the cars longer, and this sort of habit of keep buying new, is that not the way to do it? Should we have a car for 10 or 15 years, and that way we've, you know, saved on CO2 because we've only had one car. We do it. So you can see my mind sort of racing about it. I'll put all the figures on the screen. You know, I'd love your feedback. You know, if I've got anything wrong in the video, please feel free to comment. But it looks like, obviously, you know, new cars are going to be taxed hugely heavily. Prices are going to go up, more pressure on dealers, and these older cars look more appealing. So please like, share, subscribe, and I've got more coming soon.